Hello and welcome to episode 9 of AARGH My Optics, a podcast where two adult men discuss, overanalyse and generally take a kid's toy line and media franchise a little bit too seriously. The toy line and media franchise in question usually being the Transformers. I am your vintage original G1 co-host, Orion Ghia, and with me is my modern reinterpretation of a G1 classic with better articulation, Virtual Dave. How's it going, Virtual Dave?
It's going good.
Excellent. Today we are finally going to finish something. We started this podcast way back at the beginning of the year with a couple of reviews of the first two parts of the Netflix exclusive Transformers War For Cybertron trilogy. Siege and Earthrise being those two parts. So today we will complete the set and talk about the final part of Transformers War For Cybertron, which is called Kingdom. We'll give you our thoughts on that and our thoughts on the trilogy as a whole. This could be a long one. So, first things first, I'll just give us all a little bit of a recap of what happened in parts 1 and 2 of the trilogy. In part 1, Siege. Cybertron is ravaged by war following a violent revolution led by Megatron. The Autobots are in resistance to his despotic rule, and in order to rid himself of the Autobots, Megatron seeks the Allspark to reformat them into Decepticons. Prime and his Autobots engage in a race to find the Allspark first. Prime plans to take the Allspark off Cybertron in the AARGH through the recently discovered space bridge, so it's out of Megatron's grasp, despite knowing it will likely cause the planet to die. Meanwhile, Bumblebee inherits the Alpha Trion protocols, which contain a map to the Allspark, which is rather convenient, and it also tells him his purpose in life is to be Optimus Prime's babysitter and stop him being such a knob. The Allspark is in the Sea of Rust, which is bad because no Autobot has come out of there alive. Luckily, Jetfire defects from Decepticons just at the right time so that he can guide them to where the Allspark is. In the meantime, having detected the release of the Alpha Trion protocols, but having no idea what they are, Shockwave deploys a virus that will knock out all Autobot code, which is coincidentally what is running most of Cybertron's infrastructure. In addition to crippling the planet, it knocks out the AARGH and makes it visible, basically. It's cloaked, so it knocks out all their systems. The Decepticons lay siege on the AARGH. Optimus retrieves the Allspark from the Sea of Rust. He races to the space bridge where they all rendezvous. Megatron turns up. They fight. The AARGH launches. The space bridge activates. Prime throws the Allspark into space for no real reason. Omega Supreme turns up because he's a toy. The majority of the Autobots get on the AARGH. Elita 1 and a few others stay behind out of responsibility for the planet that Prime is now doomed. The AARGH goes through the space bridge. The space bridge blows up for no reason. Everyone automatically assumes that the AARGH exploded. Cybertron is now fucked. Second part, Earthrise. Believing that the AARGH and its crew and the Allspark are destroyed, Megatron has resorted to harvesting the sparks of his own kind to build and fuel his own ship, the Nemesis, to escape the planet. Elita 1 and her small band of stranded Autobots are running missions to free those rounded up for harvest. Meanwhile, the AARGH, not destroyed, is boarded by a band of mercenaries led by Double Dealer. The Autobots are taken captive and handed over to a Quintesson called Decius, who has a bounty out on them. They are pissed off because after freeing the Cybertrons from Quintesson rule, they prove to be a disappointment to him, her, them. And she ends up being outcast by the rest of the Quintessons. Torn over what to do, Decius then elects to remove all but one of her faces so that she can decide what to do. And it turns out that what she decides to do is kill them all and not pay Double Dealer. Double Dealer then saves the Autobots whilst also alerting Megatron to the AARGH and Prime's survival and his location, hoping to claim the bounty on both Prime's head and the Allspark, which it appears that Megatron's issued. Megatron changes his plan and brings forward the completion of the Nemesis project so he can chase down Prime instead of looking for a new home. Short on Energon, and a long way from where they have tracked the Allspark to, the AARGH's crew decide to use what Energon they have to travel to a nearby space bridge in the Nebulon system and use it as a shortcut. They arrive to find the space station stuck in the space bridge, so they decide to blow it up. Scorponok appears for no real reason other than him being a toy and attacks them. Megatron turns up on the Nemesis and they all have a fight. Another space bridge explosion deposits them in the dead universe. Don't ask what that is, I don't even know. Prime meets Skylinks, Megatron meets Galvatron. Skylinks teaches Prime to be at one with the Matrix or something. Galvatron tries to convince Megatron to take the Matrix and thus change the future he comes from. Prime uses the Matrix to bust a hole in the dead universe through to where the Allspark is. Both ships arrive above Earth. Megatron attacks and smashes his ship into the Ark. They all fight. Prime almost kills Megatron, but then Megatron wins and takes the Matrix. Double Dealer shows up, starts attacking both factions, but it turns out he's controlled by Decius. Cog gets on board Double Dealer's ship, rigs it to explode, which it does, and it causes the Ark of the Nemesis to crash onto the Earth below. By this point, what's happening on Cybertron doesn't really matter. However, Elita 1 and her crew have rigged the harvesting center to blow up. Shockwave and Elita 1 have a fight. The rest of the Autobots get captured, then get uncaptured, and then Elita 1 and presumably Shockwave die in a massive explosion. The end.
Mm-hmm.
Have I missed anything out?
Well, it's just the ending, I suppose, with them. You get the hint that they crash on prehistoric Earth, and that's the end.
Well, I said that they crash on Earth, but yes, you do see Dinobot, or you see a Velociraptor with a kind of a robotic eye. But that's that. Well, so now I've spoken for ages. Dave, do you want to give us a summary of what happens in Kingdom before we rip into it?
Okay, so Kingdom pretty much picks off straight away from Earthrise. Like, you see them fall to Earth, both respective teams crash land on the planet and meet up with their future counterparts, the Maximals and the Predacons.
Mm-hmm.
Golden Dish shenanigans ensue with the two Megatrons, and they devise a plan to get the Allspark and return to Cybertron, whereas the Maximals and Autobots have their own type of disputes on who is telling the truth and what is really going on. They decide to resolve their issues and rescue Air who has just been captured by the two Megatrons. And then they...
On purpose.
On purpose.
Even though, yeah, we'll get into that.
While she was captured, she got some sort of weird friendship / partnership with Dinobot, so he starts to realize that there is more to what's going on. So Dinobot and Black Arachnia have also decided to put their stuff aside, and him and Starscream have all teamed up to do their own little thing to find the Allspark as well. Everyone converges to finding the Allspark. Big battle ensues. The Autobots get the Allspark by Dinobot sacrificing himself by getting back the Matrix, and all these other things happen. They finally beat the Decepticons, capture them, put them in the Ark. They all go traveling across space to return to Cybertron via the dead universe, which, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into that.
For no real reason again.
Yeah. They arrive on Cybertron to discover that everything and everyone is dead, and they obviously took too long to get back. But also waiting for them was Galvatron and Nemesis Prime, who release Megatron, G1 Megatron, to...
No.
War for Cybertron.
Correct.
Megatron, to team up with them to finally get the Allspark, to travel to another future to save them.
Which may or may not be the actual G1 continuity proper. It's hard to say, isn't it, really?
What happens at the end? Yeah, the sparks of everyone who's died on Cybertron arise from the grave and banish Galvatron and Nemesis Prime back to the future, and then Bumblebee puts the Allspark in this tower and saves the day, and they all it becomes day and the sun rises on Cybertron. I didn't think that could happen, and first thing they do before they do anything, they erect two statues of Refractor and Cog,
because they're the grunts that were dying all the way through the entire thing. Yeah.
First thing they do, and then they were like, "Yeah, well, catch you next time, I guess."
Yeah, they decide the war's over for no apparent reason.
That's it.
Let's go. Yeah, the war's over now. Yeah.
You get right at the end. You get a glimpse of Unicron talking to Nemesis Prime and Galvatron, and like how they've tried to go behind his back, and I really didn't get that scene. Like, either he's reformatting them into something else, or he's just killing them. Like, he looked like...
I don't know if you. I think it's supposed to be ambiguous. He's basically just hinting he might come back in a sequel.
Yeah.
That's about it, really.
He did a very Thanos thing, and was like, okay, I'll do it myself. I'll go back in time and...
He's like, oh, this dead universe thing seems quite interesting. I might. It's a convenient little kind of. It can do pretty much anything. It's a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
This whole trilogy is so heavy on MacGuffins. It's unbelievable.
I mean, that's nothing new to Transformers, but it's...
No, but come on, there's like 5 MacGuffins in this.
It is very heavy. It's
like each season has 1 or 2 different MacGuffins.
Mm-hmm.
You start off with the Allspark, and then you also have the Alpha Trion Protocol, and then you have the Matrix, and then you have the Dead Universe, and then you have the Golden Disc. Like, it's too many things going on. And in between all that, people are just inventing shit. Like, just going, oh, I've just got this now. I've just come up with this virus that can wipe everyone's computer, or I can turn invisible now. Have you not seen? Oh, and I can use my webs to make weaponry.
Oh yeah.
My optics.
So where do you want to start?
Well, let's talk about Kingdom on its own.
Okay.
What did you think of Kingdom?
Well, overall, I liked it. I think it's an improvement, a vast improvement. They still got the same problems that I had in the previous chapters. The voice acting was still very slow.
It was even slower.
But anyway, I thought that the integration between the Beast Wars characters and the Siege characters worked better than I thought it would. Not to say it was great,
Yeah.
but I didn't think it was a complete shambles. Like, I thought it was going to be a lot worse. Like, my bar was very low for the interaction of the two characters, and it wasn't that bad.
Well, I thought 1 or 2 Beast Wars I mean, obviously, I think that... Right, okay. I think that most of the characters in Siege are... Well, not Siege. Most of the characters in War for Cybertron are boring.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought a couple of the Beast Wars characters were done quite well. Mm-hmm. But the majority of them were very dull. And considering how good those characters were in Beast Wars, they were a very pale imitation of those characters. I thought Primal was rubbish. I thought Megatron was horrible. I thought that Tigatron and Dinobot had swapped voices. I thought Dinobot was okay, but it was just obvious from the beginning that he was going to defect. It was obvious that he was basically a good guy from the beginning.
What I found, because I had to rewatch some episodes leading up to this, and what I found with Dinobot, which I didn't even think about while I was watching it, is that it really reflects what Impactor did in Siege, of how he defected. Like, even his death was very similar. I found that it was a bit more... It's a bit more they could have done there, and it felt a little recycled.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I did think that the general gist of what they were trying to do in kind of replicating Dinobot's death in Code of Hero. I mean, I thought that was all right in principle. I mean, it's completely unoriginal, obviously, but they generally pulled it off well enough. But it just makes you think, wasn't Beast Wars good?
I mean, yes, it does.
Not isn't this good? There was no point during Kingdom where I thought, I'm really enjoying this.
I mean, I
was just like, when's this over?
I didn't. That's the thing. I didn't have that feeling watching it. I thought I was more hooked on to see what happened in this than the other 2 chapters. Yeah.
I think after the first 2 chapters, I gave up on it, because the first chapter had some kind of promise, like it felt like it might go somewhere interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But the second chapter made it clear it wasn't going anywhere interesting. And then the third chapter was like, let's just get this done.
To be fair, it might also be because Kingdom took so long to come out, and it took the trailer to drop, a week before it actually came out, or 2 weeks? The trailer dropped really late for it.
Yeah.
So it might just be just the build-up to it. It's just taken so long. I was just...
Sure. My optics! Out of all the new characters, I thought Black Arachnia was really quite good. She had a good voice. Apart from that time where she sounded like a Muppet, there's a bit where she says something like, "Oh, what is it? Something like, get away from that thing!" And it's like, seriously, guys, do another take. Just like when Optimus Prime goes, "We're from your future. We're from your future." It's like, why did you not re-record that?
I don't get how Rat Trap and Rhinox are kind of doing like an impression of their Beast Wars counterparts. Like Rat Trap is trying to do the accent of whatever.
American...
Brooklyn.
It's Brooklyn. He's trying to do a Brooklyn accent, but every now and then it comes out very deep south.
Yes. It keeps. It doesn't stick.
No, it jumps all over the place.
I don't know if that was just down to the voice actor themselves, or was he given directions to do that, or... Well,
the voice acting is terrible across the board.
Yes.
And so is the dialogue.
Yes, I mean, I know a lot of people have been... I've sent you some people have been altering the voice.
Oh, I've not watched
some
that.
Episodes, like of putting David Cage over Megatron or something. And I actually think it's better that they're not in it.
Oh, I'm absolutely happy they're not in it. I honestly don't think that the Beast Wars characters should be in this show.
What, as in at all?
No, not at all.
Really?
No, because they've just been jammed in there, like crowbarred in there because of Toyline.
I think
they don't make any sense. It's completely incongruous. They never explain why they're animals. They never explain why they're Maximals and Predacons. They never explain any of that. They're just there, and it's like, oh yeah, right, we'll just accept you. It's fine. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
They could have been anybody. They could have been what I expect they were supposed to be, the 1986 movie Transformers.
Well, I think it wouldn't make any sense that they would be there unless it was...
How does it make any sense that these guys are there?
No. I mean, from where they are, they would have to be somewhere else. The real point for them,
who?
The 86 guys, to be on prehistoric Earth.
Why?
Because, all right, the reason why it's so complicated is because of this weird timey-wimey business going on, well, ever since they introduced the Dead Universe, of how time travel works in this universe and how it works for them to travel back and forth. Now, for our understanding, the main Siege guys traveled to that point in time via the Dead Universe.
No, the main Siege guys have not time traveled.
They have to have time traveled.
How?
Because they have to go back through the Dead Universe to get back to their time, right?
But why would they have had to have time traveled?
What do you mean?
I don't understand why you think they've time traveled.
Well,
they've traveled through time like me and you are traveling through time right now, but they've not traveled through time as in gone back in time or forward in time. They just went from one place to another.
Well, they would have to be, because when they went... All right. They were...
The main Siege guys, so you mean Optimus Prime, Megatron, Bumblebee, all that lot?
Yeah. So I understand that they were never meant to leave the Dead Universe. That's why the things turned out the way they did. They got stuck in there, and Galvatron never got them out. Well, and Skylynx.
So, I see. So I think the way you've seen it is different to the way I've seen it. I think what you think's happened, and maybe you're right, that's not the way I interpreted it, but I think the way you've interpreted it is the main Siege guys, when they went into the Dead Universe, they travelled forward in time and landed on prehistoric Earth, which is forward in time from where they came from. So they then encountered Maximals and Predacons from the future.
Well, Well, I guess no, not forward. I mean, wouldn't it be back?
And then I don't understand what the hell you're talking about.
Well, I tell you what the problem is. It's because,
Right.
say, from Siege to Earthrise, it's very ambiguous about how long the Ark has been in space or how long they've been gone.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is ambiguous at all.
When I first watched it, I thought they were only gone for like a few days, maybe a week. But I feel like it was longer that they were away and they didn't know they were alive or not.
Right.
Through the state of Cybertron afterwards and then building the Nemesis. Like, I feel like there was more of a time that they were in space.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah.
Because Megatron's going mad and he thinks that Prime's gone, all hope is lost, we have to leave the planet. I feel like there would have to be more time for him to get to that.
Yeah, I'm sure there was. There could have been quite a long time. They could have been deactivated for quite some time.
Right. But then after that, I feel like it's very unclear because they keep going back and forth in Earthrise. You feel like it's the same time, but I don't think it is.
Oh, I do.
I feel like there's a bigger gap between what's going on.
I don't see how there can be, because you're going backwards and forwards, and then Megatron decides that he's going to go and track Prime down.
Yeah.
And then Megatron turns up almost the next day in the Nemesis.
Yes.
So they have to be happening concurrently.
Yeah, I guess so.
How else is Megatron going to turn up in the Nemesis not long afterwards if they aren't happening at the same time?
You raise a good point.
Let me explain how I think it works. Okay. Right? The Siege people don't time travel at all.
Right.
They go out into space through the space bridge. They end up unconscious or whatever, and they get picked up by Double Dealer. Some time elapsed between those two things, and that's and things that have been happening on Cybertron reflect this, because, you know, Megatron's resorted to some pretty brutal shit to get his ship built, right?
Putting it mildly, yeah.
Yeah. So then, from then onwards, they go to that space bridge. They pull that spaceship. They blow the space station up, and obviously Megatron turns up because he's found out from Double Dealer that they're there. And then they go in the Dead Universe, and then from the Dead Universe, Prime uses the Matrix to get out of the Dead Universe to appear where the Allspark is. Now, as far as I'm concerned, Earth and the Allspark are on the same timeline as they were before they went into the Dead Universe.
Okay. So it's just the Maximals and the Predacons that have gone back in time.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure Megatron says that he's deliberately travelled to that point.
Yeah.
And that time and place to meet him.
Yeah.
He knows Megatron's going to be there at that point. I don't know if Primal would say, "We're one your Wooper," if he wasn't from their future.
Well, yeah, he's from the future. Well, I mean, even...
At no point does Primal go, "Oh, you're from the past."
No.
If you know what I mean? No one says, "Oh, you guys travelled from the past to our present."
No. They say, yeah, they do say the opposite, because, what is it, the Black Arachnia? No, it's Dinobot gets questioned by Starscream about, surely you've heard of the amazing Lord Commander Starscream. No.
Air Commander Starscream, yeah.
My optics!
The Golden Disc and all of its information, it doesn't make sense unless Galvatron's gone back multiple times to many different versions to know all these different outcomes.
Well, the Golden Disc has a description of events on Earth.
Even a description on Earth, it's stuff that shouldn't have happened without that initial help from Galvatron. So how does he know to navigate this weird maze, or that he was going to get ambushed at certain points? Predacon Megatron said he didn't know where it came from or how it came to be, but he just got the disc somehow. He stole it from whatever.
He stole it. It was a relic. It pretty much follows the exact storyline from Beast Wars.
Yeah,
it's a relic, and they know that it's got the memoirs of Megatron on it. But Megatron's pretty clear, as in Predacon Megatron. Actually, let's just call him Megafan. Megafan knows that this has got the memoirs of Megatron on.
Right.
And he also knows that he needs to travel to this time and place so that he can meet Megatron and help Megatron save Cybertron rather than it be destroyed because of the absence of the Allspark.
Yes. I mean, it's one of the things I've got in my notes here. So one of the things that I didn't like about that whole triangle of MacGuffins is that why the Allspark was picked to be the thing to stop Unicron and not just be the Matrix.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's several reasons why this is true.
Mm.
There's a movie called The Matrix. That's one reason. That is one of the reasons.
Why is that? Why? They still call it by name?
Do you not know this?
What?
So, remember in 2007,
Right.
when the first Transformers movie came out?
Yeah.
And what was the MacGuffin in that?
The Allspark.
It was only the Allspark because The Matrix had recently come out. A movie called The Matrix had recently come out. It was very big, very important. Everyone now thinks The Matrix is this movie with Neo and so on in, right? So they couldn't use The Matrix. So all of a sudden they had to create a new MacGuffin, which is the Allspark. Previous to that, no one ever talked about any Allsparks.
But, well, what? Wait, is that really the reason why they didn't use the Matrix?
Yes.
But they use it in the second film. They use it after that.
What Orion says is correct. The Allspark was introduced in the first live-action movie as a combination of previously existing life-giving artifacts, the Matrix of Leadership and Vector Sigma. The term Matrix was not used because the movie of the same name was still very prominent in popular culture. Instead, the object was known as the Energon Cube for most of the film's production, but was later renamed the Allspark, named after a term used for the Transformers' afterlife in Beast Machines. Once the 2007 movie had been a hit, it appears they were more comfortable using the term Matrix in the live-action movies. But by then, it was too late. A new MacGuffin was born. Another reason is that now the Allspark has been, since then, the Allspark has been kind of established as kind of like this kind of life-giving device. Mm-hmm. And it's been used in countless bits of Transformers lore since then. And every time it's used, it's always something the Decepticons are after, and it gets thrown out into space, and everyone goes and chases it. And they're just doing it again.
Yeah?
They did the same thing in the movies, and they did the same thing in animated. And I think they've done it in the Align continuity as well. Yeah. It's like, there's an Allspark, the Decepticons want it, chuck it into space, everyone goes and looks for it.
Yeah, because sometimes they're the same thing, isn't it? Sometimes the Allspark
and the Matrix are the same
or heavily connected to one another.
Well, yes, because of the Matrix, the movie.
Okay, well, lucky Unicron doesn't have to suffer the wrath of the Matrix in this. He has to battle the Allspark. The all life-bringing MacGuffin is going to somehow take away the life of Unicron.
Yeah, well, I mean, also it seems that the Allspark serves a couple of purposes. Like, for a start, it's apparently it provides all life on Cybertron, but it also feeds off Cybertron. So
yeah, that was an interesting dynamic.
It's basically where your spark goes when you die.
Mm.
So it's kind of like it's a cyclical situation. It creates new sparks, and then when they die, they go back to the Allspark. And that's something that they established in Kingdom, that it was linked to Cybertron, which, to be honest, when Optimus went, "Oh, you're symbiotic with Cybertron," I was like, well, duh. Obviously.
I mean, well, okay. I mean, maybe I should say this for my nitpicks, but my understanding of Transformers life outside of Cybertron was that it's fully possible. They even mention Velocitron in Siege at one point.
Yes.
So
they do, yeah.
Who cares if Cybertron dies? Just leave.
Yeah, and Scorponok lives on a different planet.
There you go.
And he's a Transformer.
Yeah.
Yes, agreed. But that's what Megatron was going to do.
He was going to do that, but it's I mean, it got to the point where like we have to save Cybertron. It's like, why?
Well, surely you would want to save your home planet.
Yeah, but I...
Would you rather we all evacuate to the moon or we save the Earth?
Well,
You know?
I mean, if it was,
I think you'd probably give it a go, wouldn't you?
I mean, towards the end of Kingdom, I was kind of on the side of Galvatron and Nemesis Prime. I was like, well, Unicron's a far worse endgame scenario. The 20 of you all together could barely take down the two of us. What do you think you're going to do against Unicron?
But I thought that was let's talk about the final gambit.
Okay.
Which is because I have some problems with it. So it's weird, right? Because Galvatron and Nemesis Prime later, but Galvatron is trying to help Megatron find the Allspark so that he can prevent the future happening. Originally, this seems to be what he's doing. He's trying to prevent the future happening that means he becomes Galvatron. But then Galvatron seems to change his mind and decide what he wants to do is get the Allspark and take it back to his future and destroy Unicron. Also, they act like the Allspark is single use. It's like, we can't restore Cybertron and use it to destroy Unicron when he turns up.
Yes.
We have to do one or the other.
Yes, I do.
It's like, well, why can't you do both?
I mean, literally, Galvatron you have all the time. You could come back in the future when it's recharged and you can use it again.
Exactly. He's come from an alternative future. Surely that means that when Unicron's going to turn up to, I don't know, devour Cybertron or whatever he's going to do, that's in the future. So why not restore Cybertron now and use the Allspark to defeat him when he turns up?
I mean, I don't understand. Okay, like I was saying before, from my understanding of how Galvatron is helping Megatron, he's had to have gone back and forth a couple of times to do this, making the golden disc, giving it to Predacon Megatron, and back again, and whatever. And obviously, Mega fan. And at the end of Earthrise, I think Unicron catches on, or no, it's not the end. It's the 5th episode where he takes him back.
Yes.
And Unicron's like, "What are you doing?" So I think from that point, Unicron is on him. So that's why he was like, "I can't look at the Allspark directly because Unicron would know."
It's so silly. It's like, what? So he doesn't know what you're doing right now?
Well,
yeah.
Sort of. The same goes for Nemesis Prime, because if he's been reformatted the same way, can't Unicron see what he's doing? And he was going for the Allspark?
Unicron, he doesn't have a very tight leash on these guys. It's just like, oh, just, off you go, and in about a fortnight, I'll just check on you and see what you're doing. Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. Come back here.
It's got like 2 renegade cats that keep wandering off into other people's gardens.
Yes, just keeps going and doing things, and like, oh, naughty Galvatron.
I mean, even I kind of like the idea of Nemesis Prime being a reformatted Prime by Unicron, because Nemesis Prime has always got some sort of attachment to Unicron in a weird way. Like in Armada, it was Sideways who was channeling Unicron and whatever. Like, there's always some sort of attachment. And I kind of like that idea, but it raised the question to me is like, does this future Prime have the Matrix of Leadership in his chest? Because he should.
Does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter. But then
I don't think he could, because they make a very big deal all the way through War for Cybertron that Prime needs to be at one with the Matrix for it. It's almost like he has to be worthy. It's almost like the Mjolnir or something, isn't it? It's like he needs to be at one with the Matrix, and I don't think he could become Nemesis Prime and still hold the Matrix. Just like Megatron couldn't use the Matrix.
I mean, he kind of did. It may have drove him.
He failed.
It might have drove him a little insane, but
well, no, because when he walked into the Allspark Temple, it rejected him.
Oh yes, yeah.
My optics!
They fridge deleter one. It's disgusting.
Well, as in they killed her?
His girlfriend in the fridge.
Oh yeah. Wow. Literally, she's frozen.
Yeah, exactly. They literally froze her. They just go, fuck it, we'll kill her for no reason other than to upset Prime. Why did they spend all that time in Earthrise going backwards and forwards for her to just die? For all of them to just die?
Rewatching it, I didn't understand why she stayed in the first place. Like,
to clean up the mess her boyfriend made?
No. I mean, like, as far as, once again, in Siege, they made the Ark before they were sending the Allspark off planet. So they were already planning to leave. They needed that energon from Bumblebee.
I don't know. I don't know if they were. They never made it clear why they had the Ark. They just had it.
I assume you need a spaceship to go into space. What other plan did they have?
But I mean, it wasn't the Ark in the traditional sense of the Ark. Like, you know, the Ark in G1 was meant to be a spaceship to escape the planet because the planet was. Oh no, it wasn't actually. It was they were going out and they were going to go out and.
They were going to get energon. Like they were running out of energon. It was like, well, we got to leave and get some from somewhere else. That's why they left originally.
Well, maybe that's why they're building the Ark then in this. They need to go get energon because they are short of energon in Siege.
Yes, I did make a note about that. How is energon made? How do you know who's running out of energon per bot type of thing? Like, do they need it to restore them, or do they need it just to get their things running? Because as soon as the Autobots leave, the Decepticons have completely run out of energon, and they're forced to like suck the life out of Decepticons.
Because the Allspark's no longer there.
So is it the Allspark that makes energon?
I think, as per usual, they don't explain it, but I'm fairly sure that the Allspark is somehow connected to how energon gets produced and appears.
I mean, the Allspark seems to be able to do everything, but nothing at the same time. Like, as soon as he got it,
Agreed.
I thought it was they were going to go with that. They could bring back these people who have died because they're attached to the Allspark, and they'll just go back into their bodies. And that's why we've got re-releases of their toys in Kingdom, because they're all going to come back. It's going to be a big Bugsy Malone ending. Everyone who was dead is not really dead. And it's all going to be fine. Because if they're going to bring life back to Cybertron, I didn't necessarily think new life. I thought the people who had died were going to come back.
No, they just had to bring the Allspark back so that the planet didn't die. But everyone who died. It was a pointless war, and both Optimus Prime and Megatron should be locked up for it.
I mean, even on Prehistoric Earth, the Maximals talk about they had like 200 Maximals that were with them that crashed, and they all died.
All Optimus's fault.
I thought they were all going to come back as like weird zombies for your fossilizers.
They didn't
do it.
Well, no, but I mean, no. If you look at the whole thing, there's quite a few times during Kingdom where Optimus says it's all my fault.
Yes,
and people keep going, no, it's all right. It's like, no, it is all your fault. It is all your fault. You did this. Everybody who's died, your fault.
Yes.
Every terrible thing that's happened, your fault, and you learn nothing from it. In the final episode of Kingdom, what does Optimus Prime do? He ignores Optimus Primal. Optimus Primal says, I think it's about time I told you about Galvatron or something.
About the future, about what's going to happen now.
Yeah, and he goes, no, I haven't got time for that. He's learnt nothing. He's learnt nothing. He did that in the first episode of Siege, and now he's doing it in the last episode of Kingdom.
He did. I mean, I had to when I rewatched it, I was like, oh my gosh. Like, Wheeljack was literally about to tell you, because Wheeljack was...
I found a space bridge. No, not interested.
It's not even the space bridge. They hired Bumblebee to find energon. They found the energon at the space bridge that could be used. He didn't want to hear any of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. No, I just couldn't believe it. And I was like, the whole thing... I thought the whole thing was meant to be about Prime making a kind of journey from being... Well, from being a bit of a prick to being a good leader. And no, he's still a prick at the end. He constantly puts his own troops, populations of entire planets in danger. Mm-hmm. Just because he thinks he's right... And because he's got the matrix of leadership, therefore that makes him important.
Yeah.
I know Megatron is a psychopath, but he had a better vision for Cybertron than Prime did.
I think Megatron was I mean, yeah, towards Kingdom, he does get a little bit more crazy. But he's
a totalitarian dictator.
But he's for the majority of it, he's pretty right, and he does listen to his Decepticons, and he is trying.
He only listens to them when they're saying what he wants to hear.
No. I mean, like a lot of the things that happen, a lot of things the Decepticons do, don't necessarily come from Megatron. It comes from like Shockwave or Starscream or whatever. All these other Decepticons are doing things, and they're whispering in his ear about doing. And he's like, I'll consider that. Give me a moment.
Yeah.
Let me go check it out. And then he might follow through once the Autobots have done something idiotic and have forced his hand. Like a lot of the times, I don't think he was going to do all these bad things. He was just like,
yeah, but he's very quick to do whatever's necessary to achieve his goals, regardless of the moral implications.
Yeah, I mean,
he's definitely a bad guy.
He's a bad guy, but I don't think he was always a bad guy. Whereas Prime,
oh no, maybe not. Well, Prime thinks he's a good guy.
Yes,
but he's a callous idiot.
Yes.
And he definitely shouldn't be in command. I would say Alita 1 was a better leader, and she got fridged.
I would love to see what Ultra Magnus would have done in the series.
He's boring.
Like, I mean, they didn't. I mean, he was only in it for like a few episodes, but
and he was flawed. He went, oh, we can't win this war, so maybe I should just go and surrender.
I mean, his way of surrendering was not very smart.
It was terrible. But I've just found my little note here. So what happens is Primal says, I should warn you about Nemesis. And Prime's response is, later, when there's more time. Right now, the Allspark needs us. And they take off in their spaceship to go back to Cybertron, which involves them going through several space bridges. There's time between there and Cybertron for Primal to go, look, mate, there's this thing called Nemesis, Prime. He's you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
but no, he just goes, shut up. I don't want to hear it.
I must sit in my room and sulk and think about.
Yeah, I must. It's very important that I ignore you right now. In order for the plot to work, I will not listen to what you've got to say. He's a bad leader. He makes bad decisions, and he doesn't ever face the consequences. And the rest of the time, he's kind of being moody, and then So at the end of the season, not only do the Spark Ghosts just dispatch Nemesis and Galvatron, they also absolve Prime of all his guilt.
Oh yeah.
At the very end, when all those ghosts appear around the temple, and they kind of throw up this kind of force field, and Galvatron and Nemesis Prime just disappear when they hit it.
Yeah.
Then she kind of goes up to Prime, puts her hands up to his face, and he's kind of going,
Alita, forgive me. It was my fault.
It was the only choice. And no one else could make it. Thank you. I will always love you.
oh, it's all my fault, I'm so... And she's like, no, it's fine. You did what you had to do. You're a hero. He's responsible for a lot of death. A lot of terrible things have happened. A lot of really bad things have happened, and it's almost entirely your fault.
It is, isn't it?
It's okay, though, because he's been absolved. He can continue thinking he's the greatest.
My optics!
What did you think of the Titan transformation in this? Like, it's coming out of nowhere.
It was completely pointless. It only happened because there's a toy. By the time the Ark transformed, the Nemesis was no longer a threat.
I was hoping that it would have turned up in the last episode. Like...
Well, it was the penultimate episode, wasn't it?
No. I mean, I thought it would turn up in the last episode. During the two fight between Galvatron and Nemesis, I thought that was what would have turned the tide.
No, Magic does it.
But, well, I think that's better than Magic.
Magic Ghosts turn up.
Magic Ghosts.
It ends.
Oh, it was such a letdown. I thought there would be more of a fight.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I don't know if the Titan would have helped, but I did think it was a bit of a cop-out that this went, oh, here's some magic ghosts. Oh, Galvatron and Nemesis Prime have disappeared now. It's the end.
Yes.
It was a bit of a kind of letdown. But no, by the time the Ark transformed, Black Arachnia had disabled all the weapons on the Nemesis, and Megatron had fallen off the Nemesis.
He caught him for some reason.
Yeah, so the Ark transforming had no bearing on anything. It just did it, and it kind of said, oh, I felt like I needed to do this. It's like, no, you didn't. For some reason, you punched the Nemesis, even though it was completely disarmed and it was just hanging in the sky. It didn't need to be punched. It didn't make any difference whether you punched it or not. And then what? You transform back into the Ark and you fly off. There's no need for you to turn into a robot at all.
I found it very weird that they took them back with them. Why didn't they just leave them on prehistoric Earth? Why did they take them back?
Well, because they can't be trusted.
I mean, it's not like the Maximals and Predacons were going anywhere. They're obviously stuck there. So,
what, you were just going to leave them on Earth? That wouldn't have been very responsible of them, would it?
I mean,
they're criminals. Even in Beast Wars, they take Megatron back to Cybertron.
Yeah, which turns out to be a terrible idea.
Well, it's a terrible idea because of what happens, but the point is that these guys are their problem. They need to be taken back to Cybertron and locked up or whatever, or tried for their crimes, you know. But they didn't anyway, because in the end they just went, "Oh, the war's over. We're all okay now. Everyone can just go their own separate way." And for some reason, regardless of who you sided with during the final battle, you still have to go off with Megatron if you're a Decepticon or a Predacon, and you still have to go off with Prime if you're an Autobot or a Maximal. You can't switch sides, even if you did.
Black Arachnia not stay with the Autobots and Maximals.
Black Arachnia left with the Decepticons.
Oh, wow.
As did Starscream.
Oh yeah, well, I imagine so.
Yeah, but Starscream had a fight with Megatron and basically tried to join the Autobots at one point. Well, he went to them and pleaded with them to help him.
He does do that a couple of times. He does. I think Starscream is probably my favourite character from the whole show, to be honest.
Really? Yeah, it's all right.
My optics!
I want to talk about something positive because I didn't hate it all. I'm not going to trash it all.
No, of course not. No.
What I liked about the Allspark being on Earth is it felt very much like a callback to, but not a direct copy of, the Vok experiments on Earth from Beast Wars. I quite like that about it.
Oh, what, the weird forest that it was in?
Well, yeah, it was a crater. It was the crater where the Allspark landed. I thought it was good that it was all kind of, some really strange shit was going on in there.
Yeah.
And it felt a lot like the kind of the Vok kind of stuff, where, you know, every third or fourth episode of Beast Wars, they find something weird the Vok have left behind.
It's true.
And they have. So I quite like that about it. I thought that was quite good. Nice little callback. And like I said, I thought Black Arachnia's character was good. She did. A few people did this. A few people did things where they went, that was my plan all along. And then you go, no, it wasn't. I can go back and watch the episode, and I know that wasn't your plan all along. For example, you've got the one where Air Razor gets deliberately captured. No, she didn't. Mm-hmm. No. When did Primal issue that order? Primal didn't even know who the Decepticons were when she was out there.
Although I think he does mention it at some point later on, where they're about to attack the Nemesis, or something, like how he did know, but he didn't.
But according to what she was saying, the plan was that they were going to do a surprise attack on them.
Yeah.
Not she was going to go and put traces on everybody. So, and then when they rescue her, they're going, "Oh, I'm glad I got captured on purpose." Yeah. You didn't get captured on purpose. We saw you didn't get captured on purpose. You're lying. And the same goes for Black Arachnia, when Black Arachnia allegedly deliberately encouraged Starscream to attack Megatron so that she could get some of his energon, when it was clear that she just found the energon on the floor and went, "Oh, this is a good idea." It wasn't deliberate at all.
See, that's one of those things where I don't understand why Megatron knew they were going to attack him there.
Because it's on the disc. But if that's the case, the disc presumes that the Beast Wars people the Maximals and Predacons are there because the only reason that Starscream attacked him was because Black Arachnia told him to. So, so yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense because they shouldn't be there otherwise.
I mean, it doesn't make sense that Starscream has Shockwave's cloaking device.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere as well. I had that in my notes because Alita 1 also has Jetfire's laser beam. Like, she uses it in one episode and then she never uses it again. Yeah, she just uses it for, like, I think it's the first episode of Earthrise. She's about to get attacked by the Decepticons. They were, as she was releasing them from jail, she uses a laser sword and then she never uses it again.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. But that's fine.
No, in the last episode, she's in shackles and chains, and she's trying to get out. And it's like, well, use your sword if you've got a hidden laser sword.
I wouldn't worry too much about that. But what I didn't understand was that Shockwave only revealed he had a cloaking device during Earthrise, while Starscream was in space. Mm-hmm. So how has Starscream got his cloaking device, and why does only Starscream have one?
Well,
why wouldn't Megatron have one?
I got the impression he either stole it or he just remembered he had it.
Well, this is something that I'll get onto it later. But there's a lot of... It happens throughout the whole thing. All of War for Cybertron. It leaves a lot of gaps to be filled by your own imagination. Where you've got to kind of go, oh, well, I guess that happened. Because I suppose it must have done. You know? They don't actually tell or show you anything. They just expect you know it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of those things. But yeah. But I mean, I thought Dinobot's characterization was okay. Had like the basic building blocks of who he was. It was just a bit clumsy.
Did you appreciate the flashback that was of them stealing the disc?
Yeah, that was all right. That was clearly lifted from IDW.
Oh, did they do that in IDW as well?
Well, in the new comic book, it looks very much like the new comic book.
Oh, yes, yes, it does. Yeah,
like in the new IDW comic book, I did note that. Yeah, I thought it was quite good when they kind of like did that. They clearly, I wouldn't be surprised if they've got quite a bit of their idea of Beast Wars from that comic. I'm sure they've watched some of the show, but like it felt a little bit more like the depictions of the characters in that comic to a certain extent.
Yeah, I guess so.
So yeah, I reckon they may have taken some inspiration from that. No, I quite like that. That was okay. There were some Easter eggy bits that were quite good. Like I think it's in the first or second episode, Optimus Prime has this kind of weird flash. He's feeling weird. He never mentions it again because why would you? Why would you have any continuity? But he has this kind of weird flash, and he sees all these things from the past.
Oh yeah, I know.
Well, not from the past, from different versions of the future, I think, because you see, you see Bumblebee and Spike. You see Optimus Prime meeting Spike and Sparkplug. You see him on his deathbed. So he has these kind of flashes to possible futures that haven't happened or will happen or might not happen. That was quite nice. And then obviously you had a lot of the Easter eggy stuff with when they were in the Allspark crater and they had all these weird visions, like, you know, Starscream having a vision about the coronation, you know,
the crown,
and then you've got Sideswipes off somewhere going, Sunstreaker? And, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's some good bits there.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Everyone's having their little vision that's definitely a reference to G1 or Beast Wars or whatever it might be.
Even the partnership between Black Arachnia and Starscream was very reminiscent of when
absolutely
Starscream's ghost takes over Waspinator.
Possession. That's the name of the episode.
Yeah,
no, absolutely. She almost quotes herself a few times, saying things like she knows a bit about it. Because in Possession, he turns up and he tells everybody when he's in Waspinator's body, he says, "Oh, I was destroyed defending Galvatron from Unicron," and then later on, Black Arachnia goes, "I've read my history books, and you weren't destroyed protecting Galvatron. You were destroyed by Galvatron for treachery." Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was good. I like the fact that she had that knowledge. It was a nice kind of callback to Beast Wars.
My optics!
I think I was talking about this when we were talking about Siege, and I was saying it looks like there was more of this show, and then they cut it down, and then they didn't bother to check continuity afterwards. Because when Bumblebee and Prime face Nemesis Prime, Nemesis kind of jumps up into the air, and he wants the Allspark, and he looks around, and he looks down, and he sees Bumblebee crawling down a cliff, and it flashes up. You see it from his point of view, from his, like inside his kind of head-up display. You know what I mean? Like you see him spot him, and you see a little kind of graphic of the Allspark come up, which is obviously meant to. Well, I assume it means I can see that he's carrying the Allspark, right?
Yeah.
And then next scene, he's fighting Optimus Prime, asking where the Allspark is. And it's like, it's with Bumblebee. You just saw it. You just saw that Bumblebee had the Allspark, and now you've forgotten? Yeah,
I did notice that. I was more focused on the massive crater they made, and they made this. What was the dialogue? It was like Bumblebee was like, "This is new. This wasn't here when we left."
I picked up on that.
Who made this? And Prime was like, "Only someone like me could have made this. I have the power to make a crater like this." Do you?
Yeah. I honestly, I wrote this down too. Like, it's like, cause it's like, yeah, he says something along the lines of, what could make a crater like this? And he's like, only I could. Only someone as powerful as. It's like, since when have you been powerful? When did you set this up? I don't remember you being really powerful. I mean, I remember you getting your ass kicked in the first episode by Megatron.
Every episode.
Like, I don't. Yeah, exactly. He's never been portrayed as super powerful.
No, I mean, what even made it even more noticeable is that, from my understanding, Nemesis and Galvatron are starting to stop them getting the Allspark into this tower. Yet they made a crater directly to the only door into the tower. In fact, directly on the same level that Bumblebee needs to go to slot it back in. Like, why is there a door down there?
Well, I mean, that can be explained by the fact that the Allspark creates that temple wherever it goes. So the Allspark has full control over how it looks, and he can probably move the doors around.
I mean, he does say that. He says that the tower and the Allspark move around Cybertron, are only visible to people or whatever who they deem worthy or
yeah, it's very. To be honest, anything that's happening with the Allspark, forget about it. Doesn't matter. None of it's going to make any sense. It's just whatever they want it to be. Whatever the writers need it to do, it can do. I would not question it too much because it changes all the time. That was another thing. The whole kind of like Rhinox going, "Oh, you went through the dead universe. Well, I know what's wrong with this then. Oh, I fixed it." And then they use the same thing to fix the Allspark. It's like, what? How does Rhinox have this knowledge? And
because they're from the future. Must they travel through the dead universe all the time?
But what is it? What is it you've done? And like, yeah, it's a bit odd. And it also didn't need to happen. Like, there's no reason. Like, they didn't need to do any of that. You could have just fixed the arc in a regular way. You could have just grabbed the Allspark in a regular way. You didn't need this code. It was completely unimportant, and it was only introduced when it was needed. So there was no kind of feeling of, oh, we've got to get this sorted. It was just like, oh, the Allspark's poorly. Don't worry, because Rhinox has got the thing that makes it better.
I think it was the only thing that really cemented that they were from the future and that they would have had better technology. They keep making disses at the Ark and the Nemesis being ancient or, what do they call it? Primitive type technology. But then, I mean, what are the Maximals and Predacons using that's any superior? You don't even see their ships in this at all.
No, you don't, no. No, they don't use them at all. We don't see the Axelon, we don't see the Dark Side, we don't, we have no idea whether they actually even have those ships.
And they do make mention of them. They say because they want to strip the Ark for parts, which I found it's very confusing about that initial scene when they meet and they're like, well, we know it's them from the past, but sod that.
Yeah,
Take all their energy.
I mean, they didn't at first. No, when they said they were going to strip the ship, they weren't clear that they were from their past. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it is a bit. It doesn't make an awful lot of sense. Going back to that thing that I was saying about it looks like they cut bits out and not check the continuity. Did you notice that when towards the end, well, fifth episode, and they're trying to get the Ark to take off, and then Megatron turns up in the Nemesis, Starscream and Black Arachnia and Bumblebee are on the ground outside the Ark, and then this big shadow comes over the top of them, and they're like, oh my god, and then you've cut inside to the bridge of the Ark, and someone's like, what's that? And they're like, oh, I don't know, it wasn't me or something, I think Wheeljack says. And then you cut to the bridge of the Nemesis, and Megatron goes, fire again! And it's like, you haven't fired once yet.
No, I didn't notice that.
How can you fire again? So I think that, it might have been cut.
Oh, yeah, because that's when Starscream saw his vision of Unicron and he's coming to warn them. And he's like, here's a golden disc. Yeah.
And then Bumblebee snaps it up. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's fine, but like, is that a good idea? It might be useful.
I think it was. It's more understandable than you'd probably give it credit, because at that point they don't really know what that is, let alone what its purpose is. Even though Starfield rambles on about it.
My optics!
In this part of War for Cybertron, Bumblebee ascends to his position of basically second in command.
Very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, he should probably be in command because Optimus is in no fit state to lead. I did go back and watch the previous seasons, like the first two parts. And in it, the Alpha Trion protocol basically tells Bumblebee that he needs to look after Prime and make sure he doesn't make any silly mistakes. So that's basically his job. And he does it a couple of times. At one point, Prime goes, I'm going to go... This is on the final episode.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to go to sort the Allspark out on my own. And it's like, well, why? And he goes, shut up! I'm going on my own. And then he goes on his own, and then somehow Bumblebee gets in front of him and stops him and goes, no, you can't go on your own. I have to come with you. And it's like, you just watched him leave. Why didn't you stop him then? Why have you got to let him run off, then somehow go in front of him and jump out in front of him and stop him?
Well, Prime was like, I didn't want to tell you in front of the others, so I assumed Prime was driving really slow. So Bumblebee
didn't look
could
like
catch
he was driving very slow to me. But yeah, okay, fine.
Towards the end, when I was watching it for the first time, I really thought some sort of shenanigans was going to happen, and Bumblebee was going to become Rodimus Prime. Because I was like, we have to see the toy being advertised at some point in this show.
Yeah, it wasn't in it, was it?
It wasn't, but I thought because he keeps talking about it, he keeps saying he's the chosen one or whatever. He keeps joking about it throughout the.
Well, he does a little
chapter.
bit, yeah. Now here and there.
I thought they were really going to do something about like that at the end. Like I thought he was going to go through some sort of transformation when he put the Allspark back. But... And
there were some little bits where that was maybe seeded. I actually, this is something I thought was a bit weird. You know, when they're in the Allspark crater looking for the Allspark, they turn up, so they use the tracers that Air Razor put on them to find them, and they find they're all in the same space. You know, like the two groups, the Decepticons / Predacons, and also the splinter group of Dinobot, Black Arachnia, and Starscream. They're all in this crater together, so they know they've got to go there to find the Allspark. And they turn up, and Optimus is like in radio contact with Bumblebee and everybody on the Ark. He's talking to Bumblebee, and he says,
Ready to go.
Bumblebee, should we fail, you will have to lead the Autobots.
And I'm like, why? Like, do you mean if you die, you're just looking for the Allspark? Like, I don't. Would that mean that you would die? Why are you? Where's the impetus to say that? Like, there doesn't seem to be any direct threat upon your life right now. So why are you saying this?
I mean,
and why are you saying it so slowly?
I mean, yeah, there is that, but it is kind of strange that Bumblebee is the only one who seems to be the voice of reason in the show for the majority of the show. Because in Siege, he wasn't affiliated with the Autobots or the Decepticons. He wasn't even a mercenary, really. He was just some sort of Energon scout.
Yeah, he was a scavenger.
Yeah. So I assume from that type of lifestyle, he would have to have found ways of looking after himself and, you know, keeping out of the war. But it seemed that he very quickly learned how to command and, you know...
Well, he was brainwashed by the by the Alpha Trion protocol.
Oh, I mean... It's just nitpicking at this point. All that Ultra Magnus should have had, and he should have been aware of, but...
Yeah. For some reason, no. No, we have to pass it on to another guy. For no reason. We could have just had Bumblebee pick up the Alpha Trion protocol from somewhere else. It didn't have to come from Ultra Magnus, did it? But no, it did. It did for some reason. I don't know why.
It felt like you're saying, it felt like it was seeding things and it could have gone somewhere, but it just didn't really. If anything, maybe they should really have focused on him becoming an Autobot by having the symbol on his chest later than they did. Because I thought that... Yeah. Rewatching it, I was like...
He did it basically when they... Well, it was just after the encounter with Decius, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which, you know, he had time to do that. So why Prime's not got time to talk to Primal? I do not know.
I mean, even in that, he was standing outside of the ship brooding.
Yeah. You know, I'm busy out here ignoring everyone. Yeah. No, I think Bumblebee was meant to be more of a central part of the series than he actually was. I think they wanted him to be the kind of the grounding character that is meant to be, because he's meant to bring balance to Prime or something stupid. But it seems like there's somewhere along the line it's been mandated that you've got to have a lot of shit with Prime. Prime's got to be constantly on screen, constantly talking very slowly, and constantly having some kind of internal conflict over his existence and over what he's done to everybody.
It's quite interesting how integral that is in this storyline. It's very... I mean, like most of like superhero movies these days, it's very, even though the bad guy may be using terrible means to achieve his goal, a lot of the time they actually have good intentions for the planet, the universe, or whatever, but it's just the way they do it is what's wrong.
Yeah.
In their mind, then what they're doing is for the greater good for them, or what their vision of the future is.
Yeah, and they definitely do that with Megatron.
Yeah, but for Prime, it's very unclear what his vision of the future is, and how what he's doing is doing something for a better future. He's just so... I mean, even before he did the whole thing with the Allspark, he was battling with, is what he doing the right thing, and constantly blaming himself.
He's a very simple creature. He believes freedom is the right of all sentient beings, and as far as he's concerned, that's all he's concerned with. So he's like, everyone must be free. So Megatron's plan is no good because Megatron would be the totalitarian leader of the planet, and everyone would be, in his words, his slave. That doesn't work. But what Prime's suggesting isn't much better.
No,
and he's still kind of in charge, and he also treats a lot of his troops like they don't need to know what he's doing, and they just have to blindly follow what he's doing. So is it that different?
It's not. If anything,
he's a total hypocrite.
Shockwave's original plan to de-res the Autobots and make them into Decepticons,
which makes no sense.
Doesn't make any sense, but it still probably would have been the least casualty outcome for whatever this war is. Like,
yeah.
I mean, they would all be Decepticons, but at least they would all be alive.
But what is a Decepticon?
Well,
Never really made clear. I don't know how you can de-res something and reformat it as something else. It gives the impression that Autobots and Decepticons are a separate species, but they're not. Because they're constantly referred to as the same species, they're constantly referred to as factions, as well as also being... I think Decepticons are like a creed, maybe. They're like kind of... They're a bunch of Cybertronians who all decided that they wanted to follow Megatron, and they grew apart from the Autobots. But they're definitely the same race. Starscream even says it when he comes to see them at the end of Kingdom and says, we need to work together for the good of the species, I think he says.
something like that, yeah.
So it's the same, they are the same thing, but that's very confusing, the idea that you could... So if you de-res people and turn them into Decepticons, that suggests that the Decepticons have no free will as to what side of the war they're on.
As in what? It's not a choice in the same way.
It suggests that if you've got an Autobot badge on, you have to follow Optimus Prime, and if you've got a Decepticon one on, you have to follow... But that's not the case, because you see Jetfire change sides. So
Impactor. Dinobot.
Exactly. So it's like, don't want to get into it again, but I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense.
My optics!
Hello, Orion Ghia here. This particular episode of AARGH My Optics is well long, so we've cut it into more digestible chunks. You can find the next part straight after this in our uploads, or, if I've worked out how to do it, you can see a link on the screen right now. Thanks for listening.